pledge allegiance to the
to the
flag
flag
of
of the
the
United
United States of America,
America and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
Republic
for which it stands,
and one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. Arlene, can you do the roll call, please?
Sure. John Aldred,
Here.
Francis Bach,
Here?
Ben Dollinger. I saw Ben. Oh,
He's connecting to the audio.
okay. Rick Drew,
Here.
Jim Grimes, Mike Martinson, Susan McGraw-Keeper,
Here,
Bill Taylor. I'll go again. Ben Dollinger. Okay, I'll keep an eye when people come in and mark the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll start with
I'm here.
public. Tim Garneau is here.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to public comment. Drew Bennett.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk to you about putting out the Fresh Pond Inlet project to bid. A couple weeks ago, I sent the trustees a draft bid package, received some feedback. We have revised it, and I sent Arlene, and hopefully she's distributed it. The latest version is dated October 29th, 2020, and it's a little more focused. And I was wondering if there were any comments or questions on the work. And then I was going to seek the board's okay to go out to bid, and hopefully we can nail down some bid due dates and bid notice dates, etc. So it's be a lump sum bid. We have some standard contract language that's in there, but it's the scope of work is a little more straightforward than I had described it initially, and I understand that there was some debate and discussion on it last time, and I make myself available tonight to answer any questions or discuss any things of concern. One item I think that I did hear through Arlene was right now the dredge material will be placed on the high beach downdrift of the Fresh Pond Inlet at 2 different locations. And then we also have a small area that is on the landward side of the bulkhead at the end of Fresh Pond Road. And I know some people had some questions and some questions, I guess, that need some explaining. So I did take the opportunity to reach out to Steve Lynch, the superintendent of highways for the town of East Hampton. And he thought it was a good idea if we had material that we could place there. For those of you who haven't been there recently, the bulkhead at the end of Fresh Pond Road periodically gets overtopped, and the sand behind the bulkhead is sort of washed away. So this would help repair that area.
Drew, when that washes away from behind the bulkhead, does it return back to the beach, or is it just flushed down the road?
No, it doesn't go down the road. It looks like it drains off where the jetty intersects there.
Uh-huh.
So there's a jetty, I guess, to the northwest edge of the parking lot, and so it overtops and it appears to drain in that direction. It doesn't go back into the inlet. It sort of spills around the end of the bulkhead and out onto the beach and across the jetty there. So I don't see any of it washing down the road.
Is there any way for that to be repaired while we're at it?
The bulkhead?
Yeah.
I haven't inspected the bulkhead in probably since, let's see now, it was last probably summertime, and it looked like it was still in good condition. Some of the tiebacks were exposed because the sand had washed away, but it was still serviceable. I didn't see a problem with the bulkhead unless something has changed. But it looks like it's in good shape. It still works. It's just there's a hole behind the jetty that I think could be backfilled with some sand. And I don't know if you need to do it all the time, but it certainly needs it now.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Drew, this is Rick.
Yes.
How much material is planned to be dredged in the first year?
2,000 yards.
Thank you.
Drew, this is John. I was one of the ones who questioned the spoil behind the bulkhead. My only question was, does the town have to weigh in on this? But I guess, reaching out to Steve Lynch answered that question.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, we plan to dredge 2,000 cubic yards. About 350 of it will go behind the bulkhead, so a relatively small amount.
Another question I had was about the survey. I'm not real familiar with a lot of dredging projects, but I've never really heard about a survey on others. What's the necessity of that? What's the
So because of the scale of the project, initially I had put in a requirement of a before and after survey to actually measure the volume of material that was being removed. But after getting some feedback from the trustees, we've eliminated that requirement. So it will just be based on the dimensions that are drawn out on the plan. That's how it will be measured. So it won't be a before and after survey. We've used before and after surveys on larger projects, and it's a good way to actually know how much work was done and control the work that was actually done. So, but the feedback I had gotten from some was that perhaps that was, a sledgehammer to squash a mosquito, so to speak. So we try to simplify it, make it a little easier to implement. So,
okay.
You might consider it for other projects, but for this one, it's probably overkill, I think it would be the word.
And another question I have is, you obviously designed a much larger project than we've undertaken in the past. Looks like you're taking out more material and digging farther back. Have you taken a look at the recent history of the openings and closings of the pond? And do you have any idea of how long you would expect this opening to last, given your design?
So the permits that we're obtaining are for a 10-year maintenance permit.
Right.
And during average conditions, the inlet would be essentially stable for years. The geometry of the inlet is such that it allows a certain amount of water in and a certain amount of water out, so that it sort of self-scours itself and keeps itself relatively stable. So that's an average conditions. The thing that you can't predict, or it's hard to predict, is, and what causes the most problems for this inlet are large storm events. So if you get a hurricane or a series of 2 or 3 nor'easters, they tend to do the most closing of this particular inlet. So it's hard to know exactly, to give you a precise answer. But if you had quiet times and you didn't have hurricanes or a series of heavy winter storms, it could last years. Years being maybe 3 to 5. But if you get a turbulent period like we had during Irene, followed by Sandy, by several nor'easters, you might have to do it the following year. So it really depends on the type of storm events that we have, type and number. Okay. I wouldn't expect that you'd have to do it every year. Would you have to do it every 3 to 5 years? Probably.
Okay.
I think the misconception here, Drew, is the appearance that this is a much larger project than it's been done before, when in truth it's not. I think what's happened here is Drew's done a much better job of articulating the details of the excavation, which, we're doing this, guys, so that future permits hopefully will go more smoothly than what we've done before. The agencies, as time has gone on, are asking for more details in the application on these permits. And in the past, these permits were procured basically with an aerial photograph and somebody scribbled in the location of the excavation. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect us to get permits like that anymore. I mean, when I first spoke to Drew about this, The point was to actually get to the point where we actually apply to the DEC, apply to the Army Corps with something that actually was engineered by a licensed engineer and not something that basically was scribbled on a sheet of paper of what we've done in the past.
Yeah, and just for Cliff, thank you, Jim, for the point. In the past, there have been permits for up to 2,000 cubic yards, 2,100 cubic yards that have been issued for the inlet. You might not have to do it every year to that scale. So it provides you flexibility in the future. This event, we're anticipating 2,000 cubic yards, though.
Hey, Drew, I think we followed a similar process in the application for Little Northwest Creek. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You know, and I like the fact that we're now doing things in a more standardized manner to complement what Jim said. You know, and that if we can get all of our permits under the same format, I think it will really help future boards to manage these water bodies more effectively and more efficiently.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, do I have a motion to put this out to bid?
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with that.
I will
I'll
second.
second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay,
Drew,
Okay, I'll follow up with Arlene in the morning.
thanks so much, Drew.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Have
it.
a nice evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, next I have on the list, I have John Tarvik, but I don't see him here, or do I? John, are you here? Okay. Adrian Pia?
Yes. I would just like to, before you begin, Adrian, with your presentation, I today received some further information about his presentation tonight, and I did email it to everyone when I received it. I don't know if anyone had a chance to take a look at it or not, but it is in your email account, your email for this project, and it should say what the name of the project is in the header. It's just for your information, and some photographs, a link to a video, and the actual presentation that I asked him to send us specifics about the project. So go ahead, Adrian.
Hi, thank you so much for having me tonight. My name is Adrian. I'm from Argentina. For the last 14 years, basically living in United States, the last 3 years in the Springs now. I have been teaching trapeze for the last 10 years, Puerto Rico, Turks and Caicos, summer camps around United States. And for the last 3 years, we trapeze experience in Hampton at Hampton School. And since I have a dog and I take my dog every day to the beach in Atlantic Beach, and I saw that empty space next to the parking lot, I thought it would be a great idea to set up a trapeze school, circus camp for next summer, 2021. And I have more ideas to explain, but that's pretty much what I'm offering to Amagansett at the time.
Adrian, you have some very specific things that you wanted to express as to where you wanted to put this project or this business. And let me see if I can find that document for you, and I can open it up and share my screen.
Sure.
If that's possible to do.
I can keep
I
explaining.
thought you were going to do you have a computer with this information on it that you could share your screen, or else I'll look for it?
I can do that.
Let's see, circus school. Here we go. Okay. There is a letter that is in the email that I sent to all of our trustees for your presentation, as I asked you to describe what it is. So I'm just going to, I guess, ask you the questions. This is a business that you would like to run, and you are looking to run it during the summer months. and you would like to do this off the trustee property that's located off Atlantic Avenue. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And I think what I should do is I'll send the second email that I see from you, a trapeze rig. These are videos, first time trapeze experience. And then if I go down here,
Susan,
yes.
where specifically in Atlantic Avenue are we talking about?
Well, I'd like to show the map. I'm just trying to find it now because I did send it out to everybody. So I'm just looking in my own email to pull it up so you can see it. It's if you were going down Atlantic Avenue to the beach, it's the trustee property that we own.
The gray area between the parking lot and our road.
Yes.
You know, Susan, that's the auxiliary, that's the overflow part of the parking lot. The only reason it was vacant this year was because of the COVID virus. The town, normally there's hundreds of cars parked in there.
No, I understand that. And I'm
also, it's an overflow for staging safety equipment for the lifeguards there as well.
yes.
It's such an important property to think of exclusive use for a business there seems very incompatible in my opinion. I'm sorry, this is really a non-starter for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I felt that Mr. Pia should have the opportunity to present his what he's come to speak to us about. So I'm not saying that this is a project that I am supporting in any way. I'm just trying to facilitate his right to come to us and talk to us about what this is, and then we can discuss it and make a decision. But everything is in your email. There is an aerial map that Adrian provided for us. There is a full description of what he wanted to do on the property. It is a business, so I think if you'd like to just look at what he has submitted to us, it's in your email, and then perhaps we could just have a discussion amongst ourselves and come back. Is that satisfactory?
Hey, Adrian, I got just one question. If this doesn't work out here, which it doesn't sound like this is really viable, what kind of liability insurance do you carry?
We do have liabilities for a circus school. There is actually 2 companies in the United States. They provide just insurance for many schools in the United States. I actually work as well in New York, Trapeze School in New York. I was about to ask the quote for next year, but basically the insurance that we have, it's like liability for accident, medical, and property damage.
How much for each event?
That's a quote that we get per year.
No. How much? What's the insured rate per event? Is it $2 million? Is it?
It goes from $500,000 to $2 million
Per occurrence?
Yes.
Okay.
And as Susan was saying, this is the idea to do a business. That's not the last option. The idea was like to run classes during the day for any kind of student that want to come. We couldn't turn it into a summer camp plus surf if they want to keep the kids near the beach. Another idea was like to do events at night where we can do a charity for a nonprofit organization as East Hampton Food Pantry, Amagansett School, Amagansett Fire Department. We say it's a business because it requires a lot of money in terms of insurance, equipment, instructors, housing all the instructors. But to be honest, it's not a business that you will get a lot of profit out of. It's more a hobby and it's more a passion. Having the experience to run the school in Bridgehampton, I see it's a lot of potential out here. If we do more for the community, it will be better and show more what we can do with the students and how everyone can do this kind of activity, extreme sport, or
Have you considered any other properties? I know the town has properties over by the airport that might be more suited for kind of a camp environment. Have you looked into any other alternatives?
Yes, I'm all the time driving around looking for properties and like where it will be a good spot that we can do this visible. In Bridgehampton, Hampton School, it's like kind of hiding behind the tree, so it's not really visible. And since I've been working in Club Med, Turks and Caicos, I know beach spot for trapeze is really attractive for everyone. We did it very well, even with COVID. We take care of all. We rescheduled all our classes, and we went down from 10 students to 5. We were keeping the distances. We were keeping all the students safe. No issue at all. Through the whole summer, we took down the trapeze 2 weeks ago. So it was actually a long season. I don't know. I thought it would be a great idea just to bring it more towards East Hampton, Amagansett, and Montauk, since Bridgehampton looks too far from some people to do it frequently.
I don't know. I can't speak for the rest of the board. My gut reaction to this is this is something that probably is more would be more inclined to be on private property. And you know what? As a public servant here, I would think that we are opening up our community for more liability than we necessarily want. I can understand where something like Club Med or that this would be attractive, but you know what? It's occurring on their property. It's not exposing the public to any liability. I think this is something that's more appropriate to be a partnership with a private property owner.
I also had asked Adrian if he had contacted anyone at the town board, Jeff Bragman, Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, they're in charge of permitting for events and so forth. And right now I'm sharing my screen with you. If you want to look, this is really an enormous, and I have been to Club Med in the past. It's a very large piece of equipment. And I would tend to agree that this is not, a good use for the trustee property, Adrian. So I agree with my colleagues who feel that it should be in another location that is suitable, because I don't think that this is a really great spot for that, given that we have lifeguard equipment there, we have parking lot, and you would be holding classes. You said up to 5 students with instructors, but those classes would be going on all day. And it is really a large project. Can you all see the pictures of this?
I think it looks really cool, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
It's fun. It is definitely fun. I've done it. I've been to, this several Club Meds when my son was small, but it is a big, project, and requires, I think, a different location as well, Adrian. But I think I've written to you with questions that you did answer in this letter that you sent back. And I think my colleagues, fellow trustees, can read all of this, look at the videos and so forth. But I think your best bet, and I agree, is to look at a different area for this.
No problem.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so
Okay.
much for.
Trustee property is also for the public, so it would be taking away that access for public as well.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thank you very much for coming. And do we do something else at this juncture?
I think we have John Tarbett is actually on the line.
Okay.
So maybe we'll switch over to that.
All right.
I am here.
Hey, John.
Okay.
Well, Adrian,
Thanks,
thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
John,
Oh, hi. Yes, John Tarbit's here.
how are you?
I'm well.
Hi, John.
Good.
Hey, everybody.
What can we do for you?
So it's probably almost 6 months ago now. I think it was pre-COVID, so maybe it's longer than that. We had come to you about gaining access to a property on Atlantic over a driveway that's on trustee property. It's actually, oddly enough, it's right next to where you guys were just talking about. And the driveway that's there now services a house just to the east of the parking lot. And we have now formalized plans. My client owns 2 residential properties. which are on the southerly end of Atlantic, just before the trustee land. Although it's not actually the house. You have some materials there, but it's not actually the house that Farrell had been trying to sell. It's before that, but it's right next to your driveway. And his plan is to now that he owns two properties. One of them is a Bates Massey designed house, and the one next to it is also a modern house, the one to the south of it. But he wants to tear that one down and put an addition on the Bates Massey house and merge the properties. So his plan is to merge two properties, be one septic system, one house where there's two houses. And when he puts the addition on the existing house, it'll be smaller in gross floor area and coverage than what's there now with two homes and two properties. But we're coming back to you now that we have formalized plans and re-asking whether there would be any objections to us using the driveway that exists to gain access to our property. And the main reason why we still would like that is that the wetlands along Atlantic are on the eastern side. So the wetlands are all behind the home. When you drive down Atlantic Avenue, it's all wetlands, as you know, behind the houses, which means all the septic systems are in the front yard. And we would like to, with our new design, just like right now both properties have large septic systems in the front yard, but we would have one septic system in the front yard. And it's a tight property. So being able to access our property off of your existing driveway really aesthetically is more pleasing both for us and for anybody driving down Atlantic, because where there would be three driveways, there will instead be two. I do think you have materials there. I don't know if they're shareable or not, but that's the substance of the request. I don't know if there's any questions.
I don't know whether everybody saw it. I put the, Ben and I met with John and Paul Massey about a week ago, and they gave us the aerials. They gave us the proposed existing site plans. They've been in the office for the last week. When this project was originally presented to us a year ago, it appeared that 169, which is the southerly most properties, 169, 163. John?
I'm here. Can you hear me? You're asking me. Sorry, it's 163.
Okay. The DiMenil, the house that was designed by Francois DiMenil, it appeared that they were looking to basically add some parking, which they didn't have. And I know the property pretty well. It had a very restricted driveway. And as John mentioned earlier, both of these properties have elevated septic systems, which basically sterilizes the front yards on them. So even the property to the north where the house is going to remain has a really restrictive driveway. At first, I was somewhat resistant on this thing because I could not understand why they would need to access off our trustee driveway, which they don't. But you know what? As a matter of practical purpose here, it does make sense because it basically creates a condition that's minimal impact. There is not the opportunity to put driveway between these elevated septic systems in the road because, quite frankly, they can't get a CO for that. You're not allowed to clear that strip. So it's somewhat of a self-created hardship, although it's not a hardship. I think it really could be more under the heading of better design to have this parking area off of our trustee road. And Arlene, is there any way that we can put up the aerials that we got for this? Because it's pretty self-explanatory.
I'm afraid I can't share on my computer. I don't know, John, do you have the digital copy of your?
I don't.
We can circulate it as best we can.
You know what?
You did bring it to the office. It was very minimum impact. I mean, you were kind of just pulling in off the edge of the road, right, Jim? Sort of a.
Yeah. I mean, it's a.
Excuse me 1 second, Jim. Do you have the documents? And if you send them to me now, I can put them up.
No, I don't. It didn't come through to me that way. But you know,
Francis has in his thing, he has in his folder, I don't know if he opens it, it may not be able to see a screen if he just opens a hard copy.
listen, this isn't something that, John, I don't know, are you looking for a vote on this tonight?
No, I don't need a vote tonight. I'd be more than happy to meet again or meet with any other trustees if there's any questions.
Well,
I have a question. I have a question. If you've got two septic systems now and you're making one septic system, it sounds to me like you'll have more room, not less room.
Actually, John, it's really not the case, because right now these are two elevated conventional systems, okay, which don't actually take up a tremendous amount of room. But in the process of the redesign, they're doing an IA system over here. So there is a somewhat of an improvement here. But when you look at the site plan, it basically, you still end up with a wall running north and south along that west border. So there really isn't the opportunity to without a significant redesign, to enlarge parking.
I'd also wonder about the wear and tear on our road with that much more use of it.
Well,
I mean, I drove down that driveway and it's, it looks like a relatively minimally used way. It does dip down into the wetland area. It's pretty low elevation. Looks like towards where the back of these properties would be.
Is that the roadway that they would have to use for construction then?
These are that I had when I took a look at the properity.
Is that the road that would be used, John, for construction vehicles?
No, and just, no, it would, construction would be from within the property. One thing, the driveway that we're talking about is, I guess we're calling it a road, but it's a driveway that services a house just to the east of the parking lot.
Right.
And it's a long driveway, but we would only be coming in off Atlantic and taking a left turn off the driveway, probably
about 150 feet.
Yeah, I was gonna say 30 yards. Yeah, about 150 feet in. And if we're talking about the wetlands, the whole idea here is to try to merge two properties, which and reduce density. So there's a huge, I mean, I guess it's self-serving to say this, but it would seem as though there's a huge environmental benefit from getting rid of a unit of density in town and upgrading these septic systems and actually having less gross, what we're proposing is less gross floor area than what currently exists there in the two existing homes. So there's some public benefit to the project. And again, as Jim said, and I guess it would be better if I did submit a site plan showing the septic system, but it takes up essentially the entire front yard.
You know what I'd like.
Possible to send these documents again, because I have been there last year, driven down the road, so I am familiar with the property. But Jim, you said you went recently with Ben.
Ben and I met in John and Paul's office a week or so. Is Ben on? I guess he's not. Anyway,
John, you can resend those documents.
We met with John and Paul, and what I'd like to propose tonight, because this is something that I wouldn't feel comfortable asking any of our board members to vote on this without really understanding what's going on. You've got two complete sets of the drawings in the conference room at the office. I would really urge members to actually look at them. They read better than when you look at it on the computer, and I think it's a little more easily understood. The property literally is right around the corner from the trustee office, so you could conceivably take those plans, run down, and very quickly get an understanding of what's being proposed here, and maybe we could vote on this at the next meeting.
Sounds good.
Hey, John, Chris Carrillo here. How you doing, John?
Doing well.
What type of setbacks do these IA systems need to meet off the property lines?
5 feet.
it's a 5-foot setback for the IA system? Okay, and I didn't get to look at the proposed site plan either, but looking at the overviews now, I'm just looking at 159, the north driveway or north access on the 159 on the northerly property does have a driveway access point that would go along the northerly boundary of that property. Could it be designed in such a way that that driveway or that access would make sense?
Not really, not without knocking the existing you've got a house and you've got a cottage on that property. The cottage was pre-existing, and without doing a total redesign on the house and perhaps moving the house, you couldn't really do that, because what
you'd have to start over. You'd have to tear down both homes and scrape the land.
Yeah, and you know what you can't really take away from an aerial is the elevation difference, because like I mentioned, and I think John mentioned, the elevated septic systems, these things are elevated. It's like 4 feet above grade. So there isn't the opportunity to really just like transition into this property. And that's the reason I understood the design sense here, in that by applying to us for the southern parking, it's an area that presently is lawn on the existing house, and it's the small patch of lawn that they could have. So that really what they're looking at doing is occupying that small area of lawn and making parking out of it. And their yard space would basically occur on this elevated terrace that's actually already there.
Does all the information that we have in the office illustrate all this that you've been talking about? What the
yes, John, pretty
to look like when they're redesigned?
John, pretty effectively. There's an aerial photograph there that really shows clearly the two properties. Okay, there's a survey of the properties, and there's also a site plan showing the proposed changes to the northerly property as it relates to the southern one. So it's pretty well put together and illustrated.
So John,
I have one question.
If you don't mind, I'll finish up. One more question.
Ahead, Chris.
John, what type of right to use are you proposing?
Well, we had discussed this the last, at the first time we discussed this, and I think you guys would probably want some sort of us to agree to some sort of agreement where we agree that we can't do anything to the road, right? Like, I don't think you would want us to pave it, for example, or improve it in any fashion.
Well, actually, John, what we would be looking for from you is a covenant that you would be maintaining it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
The maintenance, snow plowing, maintenance to the surface, whether it's filling the potholes or grading, would be something that would be borne upon the applicant here.
Yeah, and we would be fully, that of course would be no problem. And I get it would be some sort of written agreement that would record it on the deed. So if we ever sold the house, somebody would be aware of it.
Right. So, hey, John, this is Rick.
Yes.
How you doing?
Hey, Rick.
So, the reason why I'm referring to this property as a trustee road, as it's, quite a bit larger than the driveway, and the other property owner also has an easement to use the trustee property and maintain it in the format that it's been maintained in. So I just want to be clear that we're talking about trustee property. It could provide important access to the Atlantic Avenue parking lot. So, there are some safety considerations here. And unfortunately, and fortunately, because it creates jobs, building projects like this create a lot of traffic, a lot of parking issues. And I think it's fair to say that the trustee property will probably end up bearing the burden of some form of contractor parking. And that could impact access for the other homeowner and to the Atlantic Avenue parking area. So in this case, there may have to be some specific language that does exactly what you said before. There wouldn't be contractor parking on the trustee property. So, I just think you guys just need to work with us a little bit on this one, because it's maybe a little more complicated than just taking access off an old fire trail or old firewood trail in the Northwest Woods.
Oh,
No, I
I've
agree-
shared
I
the
agree with you.
screen, for you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, thanks. That's
It's
helpful.
two houses down, so you have someone else can explain it. It's-
Arlene, can you draw, I was trying to do the same and then yours came up. Can you show the actual property, the driveway? That's what
I actually
had
just
up.
took a photo of the Google map. If you go
Okay,
if you go to the back entrance road from the parking lot where the grass is, and you go to Atlantic Avenue out the back of the parking lot, the road comes in right above it. So it's the bottom two houses. There's
Right,
my
but-
dot, and it's about
okay,
3 houses.
I have that driveway with the houses and the loop.
Okay, I'll go away then. You
If I
put
can
up-
just draw that up.
Yep.
Then because you'll see it entirety. Okay, so here, all right, now let's go back to my screen, share screen, and then here's the map. Okay, and can you see that? Oh, actually go down. Is that visible to everyone?
It's visible, but
Okay,
hard
so-
to make
Yeah.
anything out really.
I think this is really one, guys. The best thing is to actually look at the hard copies of the plans and
Right.
stuff that we have, because it's all to scale. It's very clear.
Yeah.
And I think that'll in itself answer a lot of the questions here. And
Right,
maybe
but this is the driveway in
that is the driveway.
and here, and is this the cottage right here?
No,
No,
no. The house is all the way, go way back to Atlantic Avenue. The house in question is right there.
okay,
That's
yeah, all right, and this is the main house there.
No, that's the house that already has an access agreement with us
Okay,
to gain access to the property.
John, it's Francis.
Hey.
The only question I have is, are you aware of any other buildable lots along that trustee roadway?
There are no.
No, all the parkland behind these homes, when you look at that map, all that beachy looking dune land is owned by the town of East Hampton.
Okay, thank you.
all right,
So I think we should just bring this up at the next meeting.
I agree.
Sounds good.
All right, so everybody, if you make sure you get a chance to take a look at the drawings, drive down. It'll take you 2 minutes to get there from the office. And
sure,
we can discuss it at the next meeting.
okay. Thank you, John, for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
You have to leave it. If it doesn't work at all and you're dead, then come back.
Hey, trustees, just real quick, the way I'm looking at this property, where the road is as it relates to the parking lot and the grass area we talked about before, it looks like one large property owned by the trustees. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
That's the way I see it as well. Okay.
So,
I think so too. And that goes all the way out through the parking lot to the dune, to the beach. So it's in fact owned by the trustees, the entirety of the property.
I believe that's correct. Chris.
I'd just like to, sort of point out and ask at the same time, the properties along the eastern edge of that property, along which the driveway traverses, that take access from, I'm not sure what the name of that road is, to the east, Treasure Island Drive or one of those.
The Beach Lane.
Beach Lane.
Or Beach Avenue.
Well, I guess my question is, do those properties back up to that driveway?
No.
So what, there's the driveway, then the strip of undeveloped trustee land, and then those properties, backyard?
If you actually, John, I think you got to look at an aerial. The distance between where we're talking in Treasure Island Drive, or not Treasure Island Drive, Beach Avenue, is considerable. It's a couple 100 yards.
Okay, I'll look at it. It looked like they were closer on that aerial.
Okay, Matt, do we have anyone holding online?
You do not. Thank you, Francis.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to new business. Nat Peak Lazy Point, Martha McMahon, leaseholder at 241 Shore Road, Lot 16S at Lazy Point, would like to lease her house to her daughter, Marith McMahon, and Thomas Thorson from November 1st, 2020 to October 31st, 2021 at $1,400 per month.
Apparently we have allowed them to rent before, and I have printed out all of the affidavits of domicile, their identification, a driver's license and so forth. So I believe that all of the documentation is here and has been notarized.
Yeah, these are
There you are.
these are two local kids that are looking to rent the house. They were born here, they grew up here. This is not a seasonal rental for out-of-towners.
No. And the owner of the house, it's her daughter. So
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this.
Susan, before the motion, I would like to chip in if you don't mind.
Sure, of
It's
course.
Chris. So just as a reminder to the trustees, we do have a provision in place that aligns with the provision for new leases that any sublessees are able to fill out and abide by the same rules for those for a new lease. As Susan mentioned, domicile, voter registration, all that. It seems like all of that is in place. One other provision we do have on the subleases is that the sublessee and the sublessor do pay the 0.04% of the lease value. We do have that protection in there. I think the trustees would have the option of waiving that if they so decided, but that is a reminder that 4% of the lease amount is due and payable to the trustees. In this case, the $1,400 a month would be $16,800 for the year, 4%. It's like $672. So might want to toss that around a bit as well.
They did pay.
They did pay the 4%.
Yes, they paid. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I
they
was under the
paid.
impression that they had not. Thank you, Arlene.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I try to send you everything.
All right. Those are my 2 points, and it sounds like they're both taken care of. So thank you.
I was, when you brought that up, Chris, I was just thinking if we should have some consistency here, so we're not like looking like we're kind of favoring some people and punishing others with this this thing.
Certainly. And it seems that we do have that consistency in place.
So
So
Now-
motion.
may I make a motion to approve the application for the sublease from, for the McMahon to, Marion McMahon's property at lot 168, 168 Lazy Point, and to her daughter Marith McMahon and Thomas Thorson to continue living.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, good to go. Under records, website and social media,
Yes.
discussion to update the website design and contents.
Yes, I work on that committee, so I have served with Michael Hampton, who is on the Energy Sustainability Committee and lives in Wainscott. So I approached him and asked him if he might be interested in looking at our website, because I did have an hour lesson a while ago, but the website is not user friendly at this juncture, and it really needs an updated look and a user friendly design. And Michael is very, very talented. So I'd like to just read his bio. I have worked with him over the last 2 weeks looking through the website. He's come up with ideas. He sent me a sample, just a brief sample of what he thought we should be looking at, but he's technologically very good at this. So I'd like to read about his bio. We really need an updated website, in my opinion. We have a lot of things going on that the public should know about, and it's very hard for them to navigate it. And I do the social media aspect, and I could work very nicely with Michael, giving him things that he could insert and maintain for the website as we go along. My background, I worked at a magazine for many years. I'm used to doing edits and covers and copy and so forth. So I have a very strong and good feeling about Michael's talents and ability. So I'd like to just give you a background of his professional career. He's been nearly 20 years of web design, development, and administration experience. He was the website administrator for Bank Street College of Education in New York City for nearly 9 years. And while he was a part of that team, he overhauled the school's website, comprising over 200 pages, and he also trained the website staff. Michael has developed websites on many platforms, but for the past several years has worked exclusively with WordPress, and that is what our current website is, which is an application that is used by the trustees. And some of the East End World Press websites that he has built are Friends of Georgia Pond Foundation, which we all are very familiar with because I often will take pictures from that with the permission, of course, from Sarah Davison and Friends of Georgia Pond. Or we also host on our website the pond as it goes through the springtime and so forth, the dredging and real time. You can access real time for the telemeter readings. Priscilla Rattazzi, who happens to be the head of Friends of Georgia, the chairperson, I know her from many years ago as a photographer, and it's her own photographer website that he has created. He's also done one for Breadzilla. And Dan Weeder, who is a photojournalist. He is adept at all Adobe Suite applications, Photoshop, Illustrator, and he is a graphic designer as well as a website designer. So I'd like to explore his work to actually work with him. And I've asked him to come up with a proposal, which I will send out when I receive it from him. It'll be very detailed as to what he can offer us. He does have a team of people that his wife works with him as well. And I'd like to have you consider really going forward with a modern design, friendly, user-friendly public website that is easy to read and would incorporate all of what we have, but in a much bolder way and more accessible a website that people would really want to go to and find out what we're doing and how we do it. And I think that's very important. So I'd like to have you look at what I have sent. I think, Francis, I sent you some information. I have gone through the entire website with Michael, and we have point by point, he's given suggestions, and I have learned what he can do to improve the look of our website. I'd also like to say that the town, not that we are going to do this, but they did hire a marketing firm that really has made them very relevant in the community with regard to the pandemic and all sorts of activities that they are doing to bring the public into knowledge. And I think the trustees should, come and have a great website that shows what we do, who we are, the history of the trustees as well. So that's it for this. I'll have more for you in a couple of weeks. I'd like to have Michael come and actually do a presentation for us.
Anybody?
Hey, Susan, this is Rick. Yes, just I think the site is currently hosted and maintained by a company the trustees are paying. So please, consider the transition process that may come into play here and keeping track of these various sources of billings to the trustees. Thank you.
At this juncture, to the best of my knowledge, and Francis, you can answer this, we are not maintaining the website. And it's got to be about a year ago that I had a lesson with the website designer But part of our website now is antiquated and it is not up to date for even the technology of it. And that individual does not want to maintain the website at this point. So we have not been paying that I know of. Francis, can you address that?
It's been maintained minimally.
Your picture's frozen.
My point is just that we do have some type of an expense going on, and not to say how good or bad it is, but we do need to consider a transition plan as part of this. That's all.
Agreed.
Okay. We pay $50 a month, and we've gone to him many times for design and content. And the way he maintains is he's happy to teach people, but he doesn't want to be doing the designing and adding onto it. So we have already approached him to do this.
Sounds like a good time to make a change.
Well, let's see what Michael presents to us and discuss it from there.
Okay. Well, I anticipate that he will speak to us at our next meeting, and you'll have some more samples that I can put up on the screen, and you can see just sample of his work. I think it's a vast improvement for the website, what I have seen. And as I said, I have a good relationship with him creatively to work with him and to facilitate what needs to go up on the website that we of the work that we're doing.
Hey, the one thing I just want to ask on the next meeting, I think Steve Borner was going to present his research, and we've been waiting a long time for that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure we're not overloading the agenda with too many guest speakers.
Rick, I'll try to pay attention to that when we put the agenda together. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any questions for a website or thoughts other than that?
It sounds good, Susan.
Thanks, Tim. Okay.
Susan, I think you also wanted to talk about the use of the town email system.
Oh, yes. One of the things that Michael and I had discussed, which I think is very important, is on the list of who the trustees are. We are listed there, but there is no contact available for people who would go onto our site, look at a committee, see who the members of that committee are, and then if they want to reach out with a concern or a thought, they have no way of doing that other than to call or email Arlene. And I have to say that Arlene and Allison have a stock load of work, and I think it should be directed, any public questions or thoughts should be directed to the committee members themselves. So I'd like to see that we add our official East Hampton trustee website, email address to our names. And then you would then have to, of course, use your email and check in and see who's written or if anyone's written. But right now we don't have that availability, and it really put taxes, Arlene and Allison, when they get the calls or they get the emails and then they have to send it to us. I think we should streamline that effort and not have to have a timeline where did you get the email, did you not get the email? And I know that most of us, we're very busy, but I think if we have that advantage, it will help our office streamline work, and it will also help the committee members who can immediately respond. And it's good public connection. I like communication between the public and the trustees. So I'd like to add that on. And I think that's a good idea that Michael and I discussed as well. Just means that we have to look into our official emails.
Well, the option is to list our personal email addresses. Joke.
Okay. So yes, that was the other thing. And that's it for now.
Okay. We'll move on to old business. Peconic East Channel, dredge spoil placement. Bill?
Yeah, I was talking to Patrick. It looks like something we want to do in December. With this nice weather and stuff, people are still using it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think everything's
have?
going to go on moving 3,500 yards.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So what would be the deal? We would pay for the movement and get reimbursed by agreeable homeowners to the south? Is that the,
That's the deal. That's what we've done in the past. And that's what we're proposing to do now.
so what kind of communication's gone on with those homeowners, or has any yet?
Hey, Bill, is this kind of like the last time we did it?
It's going to be exactly like the last time we did it.
That seemed to work out really well.
Yeah, one of the homeowners coordinates everything. So, with the weather and the way the beach has been used, I was talking to Patrick. This is like really good winter work, But I guess we'll have to get it done by the end of the year. So that's what we're hitting for right now.
John,
I think paperwork in the office on this if you want to check it.
Yeah, no, it worked out. The homeowners sort of divvy it up amongst themselves, and they were like so prompt the last time we did it. It was, there's not really a concern there.
Yeah, I understand that it was a success the last time. My only question was, has there been communication with them this time, and do they want to do this?
They're very anxious to do this.
Okay. All right, thanks. That's all.
It's a good thing to do because the beach is then preserved, and instead it would just be washed away, is my understanding. If it's left where it is now, the channel would just take it all back in, and then the homeowners would have no beach eventually. So it works out both ways for the public access to the beach, as well as saving the beach for the homeowners in front of their homes. And the deposit won't go back into the channel as rapidly because it has been moved.
Okay. There's no more questions on this. We'll move on to the pump out boat rebuild.
Okay.
We got the proposal for that. Everybody should have gotten a copy of it. If we decide to go ahead with it, they're looking for us to send a deposit.
Hey, Arlene, did we send a deposit?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't. We sent the deposit for the large boat.
Okay.
The new boat.
All right.
It was just, you approved it with a 45,000 cap, but you didn't actually.
Okay.
I just need a good motion.
All right. I had a little panic moment. I thought we had perhaps sent the deposit for the boat that maybe we didn't agree on. Anyway, we've got a $29,000 quote to do the refitting on that boat. I don't think that is going to sit at 29 grand. I really think we're going to find ourselves having some contingencies here. And a question that came up already is, well, are you looking for it to look good or have it look pretty much new coming back? These little questions like that. My plan is I spoke to Rick Audette on Saturday, and he's away this week delivering boats, and I think part of next week. My plan is to maybe scoot over to their yard and look at that boat with them together and report back to the committee, and we can get a better understanding what the ultimate costs are going to be here. This isn't a project that they will do until winter, So the boat, all they really have done at this point, pulled the boat in. He looked it over with his team to develop the proposal that he sent us. He said the numbers are good, they're hard numbers, but we also haven't really opened anything up on that boat yet either.
And Jim, the new boat that we are ordering, that, if I recall correctly, he had said that that would be something that they would work on first as opposed to the refit. Is that correct?
Well, I think that I would hope that they've probably got a couple of different projects going on at any one given time in the shop. There's probably new builds and there's probably maintenance work. So the one may not be necessarily tied to the other, but I haven't been to their place, so I don't know, I don't know how big a company this really is. But in any case, we did have a conversation. I think the best way of dealing with this isn't necessarily over the phone and through pictures, but actually doing a site visit.
When are you going to go?
Not this week, maybe next week or the beginning of the following.
Hey, Jim, if you want to take a boat ride with me, it's about an hour on my boat. We can go together if you want.
No, I'll drive around.
Okay,
Thanks.
just offering.
That sounds like a fun day.
It is.
Have you ever been to these guys' yard?
No, I haven't been to their yard. No.
Okay.
But I did notice that they said that the new builds will be put ahead of any, reconstruction orders.
Okay. Either way, our goal is to get both of these boats back for next season. I'll be able to give you a better report, I think, at our next meeting or perhaps the one after.
I know he's lining up all his jobs for next year. I'm just not sure if the deposit holds our place in line.
Well, the deposit definitely holds our place in line. And what I would urge this board to do is formalize this thing in the sense of send the deposit on this, because if his company is anything like my company, you're not in the queue until I've gotten a deposit.
Yeah. So are you going to make a motion then, Jim?
I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second it to send the deposit.
I just have a question, Jim. The boat's there, right? The boat's in Rhode Island.
Yes, it is.
And we paid for that. That's all we paid for so far?
We actually paid a different company to transport that boat over there. So we haven't given them anything on this boat yet.
Okay. All right, thanks.
All right. So we have
Have
a
we
motion
given them
and
a
second.
deposit for the new boat?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And how much was that deposit?
It was half of 104,000, so 54,000. 108,000. It will be ready. He's shooting for February, the new boat. So we don't have a late delivery date. So I just wanted to let everyone know that he's shooting to have the new boat ready by February. And
Right.
he does put priority on new boats.
Yeah, I do remember him saying that. When the new boat is done, and does it come back here in February and we store it?
I would assume so. I'm sure we want to pick it up as soon as it's ready. He'll want to get it out.
Right, but I'm just wondering, they don't keep it until the summer, until we need it, right? We bring it back.
No, they're going to want to, Susan, they're going to want to get paid. And in order to get paid, they got to deliver the goods.
Right, but I was wondering if we left it there until we needed it, or do they, we go and get it or bring it,
No,
we
we're
have
not-
it brought back.
Okay, just let's make it clear. I don't anticipate us going to get it.
No, okay, let me rephrase. Is the boat's delivered and we keep it in East Hampton in February, it's ready? Or do we leave it there until we need it and then it's delivered?
Warmer.
Well, I would hope that we go over before they deliver it and we sea trial it there.
And you inspect it, yes.
And then we arrange for the delivery. I really would.
And where is it stored when it comes? Before
we can
the season?
store it wherever the hell we've been storing the boats. Where have we been storing the boats? I really don't know.
Behind the trustee office.
Well, there you go. I learned something new every day. Thank you.
Well, there you go. That was my question. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Was that an opposition?
No, I was late on the aye.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Okay. All right, so we'll send a deposit for the rebuild. Committee reports, aquaculture, 2021 Peconic Harbor mosquitoes larvae survey.
Yes, okay. I have been in touch with Dr. Nicole Marr, who is the Nature Conservancy person that I've had long conversations with all throughout the summer. I took pictures of the salt marsh for her consideration because we have been talking about a restorative rehabilitation of the salt marsh. And John and I were both in attendance at the Peconic Estuary Committee last meeting, so John will talk to that issue. I have a virtual walkthrough of the photographs with Dr. Marr this week. We haven't established an exact date or time. We have variables here, but she will then see how the salt marsh has changed since last year when I was sending her photographs as well. Tom Iwaneko is sending data to her that will be logged in, and then she will be able to make an assessment. I did send to everyone on the board her basic preliminary plan, which is not really a plan, but it's an overall general view of what is entailed and what she thinks needs to happen. But until they're able to finalize a real plan, that's just preliminary for you to consider and take in. Once we've done the virtual plan walk, I have been trying to schedule, and I am scheduling a meeting for December 17th, when we will have various different people who are involved with Suffolk County Legislator Bridget Fleming, Suffolk County Vector Tom Iwaneko. We have the Department of Natural Resources, Kim Shaw, Samantha Klein, Elaney, who's from the Planning Department, Mike DeLalio, John Aldred. I have Edwina Von Gaal, who's my partner on the Salt Marsh. Kevin McDonald of the Nature Conservancy, Bob DeLuca of Group for the East End, and Bill Taylor. And let's see, who else am I leaving out? Anybody? I don't think so, but a whole group of us will meet, hopefully by Zoom, or I don't know about in person, but I'm trying for the December 17th, where we can actually have some grasp on what we're going to do for 2021. At this juncture, John, I believe that we are going to do another mosquito larvae water sampling. So we'll have to figure out what the situation is in terms of the pandemic, whether or not we're going to be relegated to having just the 6 of us again. And so that will all be at this meeting on December 17th. And I think the time was like 4:30. So I'm still, after 3 emails, waiting for responses from everybody to say they are available. But that's where we are on the Peconic Harbor mosquito larvae sampling. And every time we provide data, it is more information for the Suffolk County Vector, who then can decide that day where the hotspots are and what needs to be targeted for treatment. So John, at this juncture, I'm going to just give you the heads up. I think we'll probably be doing another summer. At least Nicole feels that it's important to continue to monitor and to see how the changes are in the salt marsh. Are you ready?
Terrific. Can't wait.
What?
Can't wait.
I know. I'm so excited. Mosquito repellent. All right. Well, all good. So I now turn it over to John with the Peconic Estuary Committee meeting.
Yeah, so the Peconic Estuary Program Natural Resource Subcommittee met last week or recently. And one of the discussions was on the projects list, potential projects for funding. And it's been talked about this in the past. There was a survey put out to members of the committee to get their feedback on the various projects and try to then prioritize them. And our two projects, basically the Peconic Harbor wetland study, for lack of a more specific title, and the Napeague Harbor circulation study, were both in tier 2, which is not as close to funding as a tier 1 project, but the marsh study, the Peconic marsh study, was bumped up into tier 1 because of the feedback from the committee and some other information that the program managers felt was important. So that's good news. And the Napeague Harbor circulation study actually got probably the most time in the meeting for discussion. It seems to have generated a lot of interest. It got a lot of positive feedback from the survey takers. And I think we probably can, keep this moving forward. During the meeting, the U.S. Geological Survey representative expressed for a second time, actually, their interest in working with East Hampton and the trustees on this project. So I would like to reach out to Chris Schubert and the woman that works with him. I can't remember her name offhand. And just sort of open up a dialogue about Napeague Harbor and what they think needs to be done, and sort of start brainstorming it. And then maybe bring them into the trustees' world through maybe a committee meeting, perhaps first, a phone conversation or something. And then maybe down the line, bring them into the full board to talk about this. But I think, with resources that we may have coming our way down the line, that might, there might be the ability to parlay some of our money to bump this up in the interest of the Peconic Estuary program even higher, and get them even more interested in looking for other funding sources to keep the investigation of this concept of opening up the East Inlet, possibly closing the West Inlet, keep it going. So that was encouraging news from that committee.
Mm-hmm.
And just briefly, at the next meeting, which is in March, there'll be an extensive discussion on horseshoe crab restoration work and a presentation by Cornell on that, so that I can pass around some information on that Zoom meeting if people are interested in.
I'd be interested in that, Joan.
Yep.
Checking that out.
I'm going to add just a moment to that on the Peconic Harbor Protection Committee. The tier 1 was moved that very day at the meeting. I texted during the chat and asked where that was because I didn't see it listed. And Elizabeth, who was chairing or hosting the event, she said it just today went to tier 1. And now I spoke to Dr. Mayer about it, and we have to figure out where the funding for the restoration would come from. So John, you had mentioned the USGS. Maybe they also might be interested in helping us fund this project. Is that your?
Well, no, I don't think USGS is going to fund it.
Help us.
They're funding themselves.
Be active in it, because we're going to need a lead on this, and the funding aspect is imperative.
I believe that's the job of the Peconic Estuary program. That's
Right.
what these lists are for, basically, to prioritize projects and then seek funding for them, primarily by the program itself. The program seeks the funding. It doesn't fund directly, but it will use its ability to
reach out to
look for funding.
All right.
Can I jump in if that was over? I don't know if you made a vote and I didn't hear it, to be able to move the sand up the beach at Louse Point, the 3,100, if everything falls into place. Do we have a motion that the board is in favor of that or against it?
Don't we need a price or
We did not vote on it.
Right. No.
Not ready to vote on it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Okay, John, are we done on our
Yeah, I'm done.
segment?
All right.
Oh, sorry. Aquaculture. That's it. That's all, folks. I think Georgia Capond is up next.
Yeah, Francis, are you
You're
still
muted,
with
Chris.
us?
Francis is muted. And he's frozen.
I don't know, Francis. Hey, Francis, have you seized up or we call 911?
I think you better
I-
take over, Jim.
Okay, Georgia Capon, keep an eye on Francis while this is going on. Situation changes.
Francis! Francis!
Okay, opening at Georgia Pond. We had opening round 2 today. We opened it this morning. It went well. It was a nice calm sea out there. Everything was flowing good, and we'll see how long it lasts. Georgia Pond dredging bid. I think we are all ready to put that out, which we'll be doing shortly. You know, we had a decent crowd down there to watch the letting. It was very exciting.
I wanted to be there, but I'm sick at home.
Okay.
Did you take your usual great pictures, Jim?
Took a few pictures. You know, the thrill is kind of gone, you know, and it was a little embarrassing to be doing this a second time in 3 weeks.
Well, that's nature. Has nothing to do with
nature. I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't expect this thing to stay open too much longer. Oh, was this today? Yes, this has to be today because he didn't have to pull out into the pond the last time.
Would you send that to me? I'd like to put it into
I
our
don't know where
website.
that came from.
I took that this morning.
You
Oh.
did. Well, thanks,
Yeah.
Tim.
About
Tim, Would you
9:05
kindly
a.m.
send that? Would you send that link to me so I could add it to our social media and website?
Yes.
Thank you.
So anyway, that was a long and short of it today. So we are cut out back over into the open, but here's the problem, guys. We've got these southeast, southwest winds. I hope it stays open, but it in all likelihood may not.
Okay. Well, thanks for doing that.
And the Georgia Pond dredging bid I mentioned. And we've got the fresh pond bid package, which we discussed earlier. I think we're all ready on that to put that out to bid. I just want, if we can, sorry. I'm actually all done.
You're running the meeting, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we vote that we would also put the public notice, the notice to bidders for Georgia Pond dredging?
Well, yeah, Arlene, I thought you were paying attention. Come on, man.
Oh, man, I'm falling asleep here.
Okay. Well,
Okay, I didn't hear the vote, but that's fine.
If we work hard, we can get through this quickly.
Okay.
So,
Fresh Pond, yeah.
Napeed Lazy Point, we have the application by the 4 property owners, 611, 619, 621, and 623 Lazy Point Road for the joint coastal erosion remediation plan. We discussed this at our last meeting. Chris has been working on permit conditions, and that's the way this was left off last time, that we would tentatively approve this pending articulation of our permit conditions. Hold on, I got a message coming in from Francis. He has internet issues. His health, he's fine. Everything's okay.
Good to hear.
All right. So, guys, did everybody have an opportunity to read the permit conditions that Chris sent around?
I personally did not. It came today, but if everything that Chris and the board spoke of, everything was inserted, I'm sure it is. I will take the time, of course, to read it, but
Okay.
I did not.
Anybody?
Jim? Oh, you want to say something? Go ahead. Then I wanted to make a comment, please.
Okay. Does anybody else have comments here?
Yeah, I have a question, actually. The distances between the units is blanks. There are blanks there. Do we have a proposal? Do we have that in their proposal?
I believe that is articulated in their proposal, and I saw the blanks in it. That's really something that the applicant, will give us the exact data on. If I recall, those things were 8 feet apart?
Yeah, I thought 6 feet, but something like that.
All right. But we could get that sorted. Any other comments, John?
No, I read through it. I thought it was very well crafted.
I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good read.
Yeah.
Rick,
Hey, Jim?
something?
Yeah, please. Thank you. It is proposed as a 5-year permit, and I was wondering how the board felt about, maybe some kind of an annual report with the annual permit fee being part of that submission, and also if we could tie a valid certificate of insurance for 1 year that's paid in full at the anniversary, so we don't have to worry about the insurance lapsing over a longer period of time, particularly because this is going to span multiple boards, and some of the boards may not be as experienced in a legacy project. So just this can kind of go on autopilot with the annual review.
I think that's a great point. Chris, are you on this?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I think it's a good point as well, and I'm happy to put it in, you guys. This is really, up to you, the trustees, for your input, and I'm happy to change this around a little and put in that there's going to be an annual report, an annual fee, and providing that certificate of insurance each year. I could put that in. We can make it subject and still vote on that tonight if you guys like. And again, it's just really up to you guys, the trustees, on how you want to see this thing play out.
I don't know. Can I get a little input? What's the pleasure here?
Actually, there already is a provision in here for biannual reporting. You could just add it to one of those, I would think, if you want to add the other requirements to
that I was really speaking to, do we feel comfortable voting on this evening?
Yeah, I think we can.
With those provisions, Jim, I would be comfortable. I think the project has promise, and we need to explore softer solutions, and this has the support of the homeowner community and could be a good thing for the area. They're clearly struggling with erosion.
All right. Does somebody want to make a motion here?
I'll make a motion that we accept this proposal.
All right. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so motion made by John Aldred, seconded by Susan.
Hey, Jim, just that is subject to those conditions going in, please.
Yes, that would be subject to the conditions discussed.
And Arlene, that's an annual, well, we have biannual reports, but we're going to add to it on the each year report, the annual fee and the certificate of insurance are included.
I think you treat this like you would any business. You have to update your liability insurances every year. And I think that's actually a good policy, not only for this application, but for future applications that are going to do something where they span multiple years. We should be named on a policy, and we should keep that information up.
Okay, was anyone against? We're all in favor? I'm sorry, we're trying to write down if the vote was completed.
I don't think we voted yet.
Okay.
So motion by John and I seconded it and
All
vote.
right. Everybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Francis, if you can text me.
You could call in too.
All right. Well, anyway, I think it's carried. What else we have? We have roads. We have 163 Atlantic Avenue, which we discussed. That's been tabled. Rick, we have Town Line Road, Merchants Path.
Yes. Thank you, Jim. Allison in the office, probably with some help from Arlene, got some good information on the property owners, particularly on the east side, and it looks like it's primarily town and county property. So there's only 2 points of contact that have to be made in order to introduce the idea of a cleanup that may cross over onto town or county property. So we may be able to do something this off season, and I need to contact those 2 parties and hopefully at the next meeting have some feedback as to their thoughts on our doing a kind of a trustee-sponsored cleanup in the area. So I think that's really positive. The other side, I think, is more of a mix of private and public and maybe trickier. So at the very least, we could get a good portion of the area cleaned up without too much concern regarding liability and accessing various properties. So that's kind of where we're at there. And I know some other members had been talking about it a little bit. If anyone else wants to weigh in, please do so.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I took another ride down that road with my grandkids last week, and that area that the brush and wood chips and cut tree stumps has been dumped has attracted more dumping. So I'm not sure. It looks like it's really maybe a priority area there. It's almost
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. So
that may be the intention of whoever's dumping, but
it's possible. You know, we can explore, you know, a swing gate that can be opened or closed based on, you know, how the activities are playing out there. You know, we were trying to go with a softer approach, but you know, if it's just getting so egregious that over a couple of week period of time, we're seeing buildup of dumping, you know, we may have to take a further step. You know, as I'd mentioned, I did look into some gates that were in the $1,500, $2,000 range plus installation costs. So, you know, maybe as we get closer to this, we may have to combine cleaning up with possibly limiting access if we can't have responsible access.
I have an idea. What about a camera?
Well, we've talked about that before. There are lots of great cameras out there, game cams, etc. Maybe that's another consideration. So it's a good thought.
Yeah, a camera and then a sign that says, "Hey, smile, you're on camera."
I'm actually working on a sign design that to present. Rick, you had asked me to come up with something, so I have been working on some ideas. But you know, you have those dirt bikes that run all the way up and down, and there is an area of the road where that road is abutting almost directly in back of people's backyards, which are very small. So those, I think, are the group of people that are complaining about the noise. I would as well. It is it's fairly well traveled with the dirt bikes. But I sent a picture from the East Hampton Star, I think it was last week's or the week before, of a fire that the fire department actually had to come to the fire pit, and people had put more trash on fire. I've sent it out to everybody for you to see. It was very timely since this has been on.
Yeah, it is kind of out of hand down there. It's unfortunate because it's such a beautiful area, and we may be left with no option. But I do think it's coming to a fork in the trail, and we're really going to have to make a hard decision here, particularly if we plan out resources to start to clean it up. And the burn pit is definitely, you know, a top priority, and the section of the road that John describes that has had a lot of illegal dumping and has gotten to the point where it's creating a dysfunction. So I would say in the next, you know, before the end of this year, we're going to have to make a hard decision down here. We have 2 more meetings, possibly a third. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, I'm not finished. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick. So payment of the bills is the next thing on here. We have Optimum 136.76, East Hampton Business Service 153.67. This is, guys, I've been having any of the paperwork related to Orsted and the windmills. I've been having hard copies printed so that at the end of this thing, we've got sort of a written compilation of everything that's gone back and forth here for future boards. We have a bill from Mike DeSuno, $800. This is for opening the pond a few weeks ago, so we should expect another $800 next month. Does anybody want to make a motion to pay the bills?
I'll
I'll
make
make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Who would like the second?
a second.
Okay. Minutes, September 14th, September 28th, and October 16th. Has everybody had an opportunity to read through the minutes?
Yeah.
I have, just for the record, I have reviewed them. I think John and I, we do the minutes, made any adjustments or edits as suggestions. And so I am caught up right through the 26th of October. And I've read them all, so I'm in favor of.
Okay, well, Susan, we're only voting up to October 16th tonight. Do you want to make a motion to?
I will make a motion to, yes, approve the minutes for the 14th of September, 28th of September, and October 16th.
Okay. Okay.
John, you second that?
I did.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Number 3, financial reports for the month ended in October 31st, 2020. I have not had a chance to look at these, so.
Okay. I just want to make a quick comment on that because I'm excited about this naturally. And let me see if I can pull it up here. Yes, on the screen. I'm going to share my screen again. And I thank, where is the thing? I think it's right here. Thank you very much to Arlene who made this so I could read it, or you can read it. To the budget for the 30th of October, I'm very happy to say that our Captain William J. Rysam Scholarship Fund and the Save a Fish balloon t-shirts, et cetera, have improved our scholarship fund. As you can see, November 2018 balance was at 22,985. 2019 was 36,212. 2020 in November was 48,000. And this year, thankfully, from the dredge spoil fee was $10,000 added. And then we had $2,200 in donations from the public or whomever wanted to donate to this fund. And then the balloon fish merchandise this year raised $1,330. So from 2018 to 2020, we have an increase in our fund of $25,426, and that is more than double the amount of the fund since 2018. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Susan. So what do we want to do with the financial reports? We want to table them until next meeting?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, thank you. Hey, we're going to just have to take a step back. As far as the Georgia Pond dredging bid, we should be, I should have asked for a motion to notice this in the paper. If I could get a motion to that effect.
Motion to notice the Georgia bid.
All right, a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Let's see, report of the clerk. I'm not the clerk, but Francis and I think Bill we've been discussing the possibility of staggering our terms so that our board doesn't basically change every 2 years. The discussions on how to do this is the possibility of basically taking at the next election, the 3 highest vote getters get 6 years, the second 3 get 4 years, the last 3 are just a 2-year term, and then basically every 2 years, 3 board members would be up. Does anybody want to comment on this, or and I hope I got this straight?
Well,
Yeah, I think you did, Jim. And, it's a good thought. I will say, having served now for 5 years, that a 6-year commitment is rather robust and may not be for everyone. So personally, I would feel like it would be perhaps a little more smooth if you did like a 4-3-2 on the years. That's just my opinion. That 6 might be a little long, but it's great to see the structure and the thought that went into it. Thank you very much to the clerks.
I did call and speak to Francis about it to explain it more specifically. And it turns out apparently that the 6-year term, which I also had the same feeling, Rick, might be just a little too long. But apparently, Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is how this would rotate properly so that you did have a rotation. And that's why the 6-year term was suggested. Is that correct? Otherwise, if you broke it down with fewer years, like a four-year, which is a council person serves 4 years, it wouldn't have the same rotation.
Well, mathematically, this is the only way that gives you 3 trustees work up for election at a time that fits in with the 2-year cycle of town elections.
Is that a
Jim, what's the magic of 3 years or three trustees?
Can I tell you what, Rick? I think it was really all about, there's 9 trustees. How do you break this out so that basically you have the same number of people coming up for election at any given cycle? I think that's what drove it.
Is the every 2-year election cycle a requirement? In other words, can you go out of that cycle? Can you stand for election out of that cycle?
I think you can do whatever you want as long as the town board approves it.
And I also thought, I think Francis described that the final 3 who get the 2-year term would then rotate into the ability to have a 6-year term. That was my understanding.
That was mine as well.
Sorry?
Yeah.
I didn't hear
After the initial election, every 2 years there would be 3 trustees running for 6-year terms, and it would just cycle along that way.
I was a little daunted by the 6 years myself, but I'm kind of mixed emotion about it.
Joining the Navy.
It might keep people, potential candidates away, but in another sense, it might make whatever candidates do run much more committed to sticking it out.
Well, it's a little like joining the Navy.
Yeah.
What are the appointed boards terms?
A lot of some of
2-year for supervisor and 4-year for council people.
No, I'm talking about like the planning.
You're out. Jim, you're muted.
I was unmuting.
A lot of you go ahead, Jim.
The appointed, the ZBA planning board and stuff, I think are 5 years, aren't they?
6.
Some of them go to 7.
7.
Okay.
Right. I think I'd like to bring up that we did run on this. We said as Democratic candidates that we wanted to implement staggered terms, which is very important because when we have an election every 2 years, you have 18 candidates. So the public gets confused, number one. And if every time you have to turn over 2 years, you have projects that are going on and the new people have to be brought up to speed, and it makes it more difficult to, I think, to accomplish what we want to accomplish when we don't have background on projects. So when you have this rotation, you have the experienced trustees, people who know and are knowledgeable about what is going on in the committee, and then you have new people who come up. And then, so I like the idea of this rotation.
Well, I like the idea. I like the idea of the rotation just for the continuity of thought, because let's face it, every 2 years, if let's say we get 4 new members, not even 5, 4 new members, you can see a board completely do an about face and take a completely new direction. And sometimes that could be a good thing. But sometimes, and I think it has been a case in the past, where the board can kind of get lost as far as its sense of purpose. I think we've been very fortunate the last 6 years in that we've had some topics that have really been, the forefront as far as the community interest. And I think we've been very fortunate in our membership here. You know, we've got a pretty broad range of experiences here that have really come to bear. It doesn't say that you're always going to get that with a board. And I think I agree with you, Susan. I think having this staggered out does give the opportunity to make for a better job and
continuity,
institutional memory.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, everybody, I'm back.
Oh,
Hi,
good.
Francis.
Thank God.
I'm sorry. I don't know what the hell happened there.
Yeah, sometimes I have to go in the middle of things too.
No, that's not what it was.
Well, is this, we're discussing the staggered terms, Francis? I don't know if you could hear our discussion.
No,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay. Well, Jim was, we were all commenting about the staggered terms. I don't know if this is something that we continue to discuss.
I think we should look for some public input on this somehow.
Well, the public will input when we go to referendum.
Yeah. Hopefully this discussion will lead to some public input too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry I missed out, but is there any general consensus or any questions I can answer on this?
Well, Francis, I think the term of 6 years was brought into question, just that it is a long commitment for
Absolutely.
the role as a trustee, and are there other alternatives? And there was a little discussion on that, and I think there are some pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Did you guys discuss any other options here?
Yeah, I mean, you can break it up 4-3. You could do 3-year. You could break it up in 3, but you're going to have an election every year with the shorter term if you continue with the 2-year terms. And I believe that may also occur. It gets really odd with the 4-year term. The 6-year
downside
is
having trustees running every year?
I'm sorry?
Is there a downside to having a trustee election occurring for some of the board every year rather than every 2 years?
I think the public would get weary.
I agree with you, Francis.
Well, I asked the question. Jim, my question was, local elections are every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you vote out of that cycle? Is that any election law? Is there any election law that prevents voting in a presidential year or something like that?
No, there's always there's an election day every year. When there's a absent, the town board can have an election every year, is my understanding. There's certain mathematical parameters. We all seem to agree that 9 people on each side running at once gets confusing. When you break it down, the only way you can break 9 people down is either 3, 3, and 3 or 5 and 4. If you have 5 people running at a time, you're basically in, you have 10 candidates. And running one of the original thoughts I had was like having 3 people running every year for 3-year terms. But that runs into this, the 2-year cycle of town things. So, I mean, there's 4 or 5 ways you can do it. And, let's listen to the public see what the thought process is, yeah?
This was just the cleanest way to do it. I know 6 years is a very long commitment. The planning board, I think, gets 7 years, and the ZBA, I think, are 5-year terms. So it's not really out of line with any of the other, committees, except that we are elected.
Yeah, and we're starting to take on some pretty long-term projects here. So,
Good point.
I also think when you have only a 2-year term, you spend your first year as a new person, that's my experience, learning quite a bit. And the second year, trying to get the programs, flowing. And then suddenly you have to turn your attention to the campaigning again. And I just think the public gets a little confused about, or I shouldn't say I think, I know that the public gets confused as to who the candidates are. I like the continuation and the flow of knowing the projects I'm working on. I have time to continue working on them before another campaign season comes upon us.
I mean, for example, I think shortly after the beginning of January, this whole election cycle is going to start gearing up again. And so that's going to be another distraction for anybody who wants to, try to come back again next year. It's so quick. It's just so fast. We've had 1 year to work on all these projects that we've had lined up. And now we got to get distracted again. So.
And this is not the first time that we've talked about staggering. The first time I ran back in 2017, I think this was on our, on one of the things that we hope to achieve in that first 2-year period.
Hey, Rick, with 6-year terms, if somebody decides to do something else, it would just be like God.
It'd just be an open seat.
Yeah, an open seat that would get appointed, and then the following year there would be 4 trustees running. One of them would be to complete that seat. So that would be for
right. So you'd only have a vacancy for possibly a partial year.
Right. It would be the David Lee syndrome.
Would that filled seat run the following year, not fill out the 3-year term?
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to do that. I think you have to put that seat up for election with the next election.
Oh yeah, that's what David Lease did, right?
Yeah.
Chris, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm sitting here listening to the trustees. One of my thoughts was, I wonder if there's any way to engage some sort of independent election specialist just to kind of poke holes in this and give some pros and cons that maybe we're not thinking about. Because I don't know, and maybe just in this last part of the conversation, maybe these guys, somebody wants to step down, and maybe they would wait to the end of the election cycle to make that easier, so you don't have to appoint somebody. But yeah, I'd like to see some info from a specialist or an expert or independent guy, just because I just don't know enough about it, and I'd certainly have to look into some of the election law. So not really prepared to give you some legal advice, but I think that's my opinion at this point.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody else?
I think it's a discussion to continue.
Okay.
And thank you for working on this.
Well, maybe it'll inspire some people from the public to check in with us and toss some ideas.
Francis, do you know of any timeline, or Chris, what's the timeline on us having to make some decisions on this and to get a referendum put together and have the town board review it and all the processes that I'm sure that are needed?
My understanding is that the town board has to pass a resolution, and that, I believe, has to be done no less than 150 days before the election.
Yeah, 6 months.
Yes, we got to put our skates on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and after that, there would be it would be subject to a public referendum. If the public approved it, it would roll into existence, I guess, the next year or at the trustee election.
I thought it would be right at that election.
But no, because if the town board approved it now, they would be approving having a referendum.
Right.
And then, but they would, at the same time there was a referendum, there'd also be another trustee election. People running for 2-year terms under the current thing. And so this would all probably roll into place like 4 years from now.
Why wouldn't it be at the next election, November 2021?
Because you have to know the results of the referendum, which are going to be in the same election.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, the election of 2021 would.
Well, if the election
Only be the referendum, right?
If the election failed, wouldn't we all just get 2 years? And if
we would also in 2021 there'll be 9 trustee seats open with 18 candidates running for 2-year terms.
Well, you know, you're right,
and
though.
If a referendum was passed in that election, the next election would take place 2 years from the referendum passing.
2024.
And that would be, well, yeah, it would be like 1923. There would be people running for 2, 4, or 6-year terms.
So you're saying that, okay, the county just did this. Theirs failed. They wanted to extend to 4-year terms. So if that had passed, that would not have gone into effect in January. Is that what you're saying?
You may be right, Francis. It may go into effect right away.
There's no reason why it shouldn't.
When the referendum just took place, so it would occur during the next election cycle for the trustees. It would be 2 years, to Bill's point, I believe.
Well, I don't know
why it would. Because if it didn't pass, it just wouldn't change the 2021 election. It would we would just be 2 years. I don't know.
You're saying that the referendum would apply to the same election cycle. The referendum is passed then. I'm not sure. Well, that's where the expert would come into play.
I mean, the voters would know that when they vote for the referendum, they would know that slate of candidates would be eligible for the outcome of that, referendum. I don't know. That sounds like a legal election law question.
I think if the resolution changing trustee terms was passed in the 2021 election, it would apply to the next election, because you would already have 9 trustees running for 2-year terms in that same election.
But if the referendum came out ahead of time, on the ballot, everybody would know that they were voting for this staggered way of moving forward. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Well, this is Chris's advice is that we get somebody who knows what they're talking about to look into this. Sounds really good.
Yeah. Hey, guys, you know who actually knows a lot about this? Is Rudy Giuliani, and I'm sure he'd be glad to help us out.
All right, well,
So I think we should go ahead and talk to someone who knows election law, and we can find that person and come back and discuss it at our next meeting. Is that?
sounds good, because we
I'm happy to do a
can't, we
little
can't let
digging.
this sit too long.
Right.
I'll do some research and see if there's anybody locally or Long Island that might be able to join us at a meeting, upcoming meeting, and help us figure out what to do.
That would be great, Chris.
Awesome.
Hey, maybe before we jump to the next subject, Arlene made me aware that when we had the vote on the bills, we motioned and we seconded, but I got sidetracked and we never actually voted on it. So we could just backtrack for a moment. All in favor of approving the bills?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks. And Francis, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for taking over like that.
Well, listen, we weren't sure what happened to you.
Yeah, I'm sure you had some great thoughts. Did you discuss replacing the office computer?
No, that's the last thing on the agenda.
Okay, so what's happened is Allison's tower died, and I think it cannot be brought back to life. So, and we don't have the money left in our town budget to do this. So we would like to have the trustees order the new computer and monitor so that we can get this up and running as quickly as possible.
I'll make a motion to purchase a new computer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a question about this. Can we purchase, if we use trustee money, can we purchase off state contracts?
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through purchasing to do it. The town, we're going to have to reimburse the town for it.
Okay.
And Francis, what is Allison's role?
She is part-time secretary.
I called the other day and heard the new voice.
She's doing pretty well.
Here. Hi, Allison.
Hello.
So we're going to get you a new computer.
I greatly appreciate that because it is not workable at all.
Allison actually started pre-COVID, and then she had to take a vacation for a while. So she started back up about a month ago, I think.
A little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Probably a little month and a half, but it's good to be back.
Welcome back.
And it's very helpful to Arlene. All right, anybody have anything else?
Just for the record, no callers.
Okay.
Well, I have one thing. David Lee set up a meeting with Michaels, David Brown, Fire Marshal, David Lease and myself for Thursday, 1 o'clock, to discuss the fueling at the town docks issue. So I just, I don't know if David really wants to limit it to just these people, but if anybody's interested, you could just send me an email and I'll reach out to David and just make sure it's, if other trustees want to come to the meeting, or it's a Zoom meeting, come to the meeting, they can, and I can get back to you.
You want to just send us the link, and then those of us who wish to join?
Well, I want to make sure,
RSVP?
I want to make sure with David Lease that,
Oh, yes. But if he says it's okay, just send it to everybody. This is with regard to the oil spill, right?
that's right.
Thank you,
Well,
John.
John, can we email you some questions and you could represent us at the meeting and then report back?
That'd be very helpful, actually, yeah.
All right, that's probably the approach I'm going to take. So I'll get it to you. What day is the meeting again? Is it this week or next week?
This week, Thursday, 1 o'clock.
Okay, I'll get a few things over to you prior to that.
All right, thanks. I'll ask David for other people and send out the link if he's comfortable with that.
Thank you for arranging for that.
Thanks, David.
Look forward to hearing about it.
Okay. Did you guys discuss the PEMS? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
We passed it.
Okay. Anything
Chris is
else?
going to add a stipulation that Rick brought up. I think it was Rick, right?
All right.
Yes.
I'll have to revisit it now. I'll catch up. Anybody else have anything?
It's nice to see everyone.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks again
Good
to
night.
Matt.
Thanks,
And,
Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Hi, Matt.
We'll see you guys soon.
Be safe, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.